I wonder what it's like to be 30, with a dream as big as defeating all the kaiju. This story follows Kafka Hibino, a 30-year-old member of a kaiju cleanup crew who transforms into a kaiju. We're introduced into the world of kaiju when a giant reptile decides to invade the city through the water. We see the defense force officers, specifically the 3rd Division, attacks the kaiju, blows it up, and its guts spills everywhere. Brought to you by Mina, the girl Kafka made a promise with to become defense force officers and kill all the kaiju. We are then introduced to Kafka as he cleans up the mess that Mina made. We are also introduced to a newbie of the cleanup crew. His name is Reno Ishikawa. A random kaiju attacks and Kafka decides to be a hero and defend Ishikawa, and Kafka got hurt. He ended up in the hospital, and that's when a kaiju who said, "I found you," made its way into his mouth. Kafka and Ishikawa, being confused, panicked, but an old man saw them and decided to call the defense force. Kafka and Ishikawa decided to escape, and on their way, they realized that a little girl was screaming for help for her mom, who has been crushed by a rock that another kaiju decided to attack. The little girl was scared, but Kafka still helped, and the little girl thanked him. When the defense force arrived, they were confused as what had happened, and the little girl said, "Are you gonna kill the good kaiju?" After the incident, Kafka was listed as kaiju number 8. Ishikawa convinced Kafka to take the defense force exam again, and they both passed, at least the first stage. Kafka and Ishikawa arrived to the second exam, where we meet Shinomiya. She was upset that he parked in her space, so she decided to lift his car and throw it. We can assume that the suit that she has on gave her those powers. Kafka realized what it meant to be 30 years old as he went through the training and the challenges. They are given suits and the percentage tells their combat power. Kafka is a 0%, while Shinomiya 46%. As they go through their training, Kafka is met with an obstacle when he gets hit by a kaiju and decides to still continue. Training is over thanks to Shinomiya, but a random kaiju appears. Shinomiya is badly hurt, so Kafka has to transform. Even though he saved the day, he is still listed as an enemy, so he begs Shinomiya to keep his secret. After Shinomiya recovers, she warns Kafka, if he ever chooses the kaiju side, she will kill him. Kafka passed as a cadet, but not a full officer. On their first mission, a mushroom-looking kaiju gets defeated by the hands of Mina. There's more tiny little kaijus fell out of its body. Because of Kafka's experience with cleanup crew, he already alerted them that they had reproductive organs. Almost finished with cleanup, Ishikawa and Iharu are face to face with Kaiju number 9. Kaiju number 9 says he wanted to take Ishikawa back to his base, so he shot him up in places that he wouldn't be killed. But to dispose of Iharu, Kafka shows up as Kaiju number 8 to save the day. As he fought Kaiju number 9 explained that he was not expecting him to be this strong. On the verge of death, Kaiju number 9 escaped because the defense force surrounded Kafka and he got distracted. Kafka, Kaiju number 8, created a smoke screen and escaped, seemingly. But the vice captain, Hoshina, finds him. They fought, and before Kafka could kill him, he hits his sword instead, and poof, disappeared. Hoshina was very concerned as to why Kaiju number 8 was not trying to kill him. Why was he fighting like a human being? Kafka is then promoted to a full defense force officer instead of a cadet. Even though his combat powers from the suit is only 0.01%, he still played a major role with the information he gave his crew. Super late at night, Kafka spots Vice Captain Hoshina practicing his moves to kill Kaiju number 8 once he sees him again. Kafka is shaken because he's practicing to kill him. Kafka goes on the roof to reminisce and think when what seemingly looks like shooting stars is actually attacks from a kaiju. But not a random attack, but an organized attack on the base, the 3rd Division. Vice Captain Hoshina is met with Kaiju number 10. Vice Captain Hoshina held his own, but he's more used to smaller kaijus since this kaiju number 10 transformed into a massive kaiju. We need Captain Mina. She shows up in the nick of time and blasted kaiju number 10, just before Kafka was about to transform to help. As we celebrate, Captain Mina's tiger realized there's something wrong. We are panned up to where we see the kaijus inserting into what looks like a massive nuclear bomb. Kafka has no choice. He runs and everyone is confused except Vice Captain Hoshina. He knew something was wrong. He always suspected it, but because he liked Kafka so much, he pushed the idea that he could be Kaiju number 8 to the back of his mind. But he has to face reality. Kafka is Kaiju number 8. Everyone is stunned and shocked. Kafka, with all his energy, all his power, punched as hard as he could, sending the nuclear bomb further into the sky. A big, massive explosion happens. Because of the impact, it still impacted the base and destroyed it. But Kafka, the man he is, protected all he could. But he screwed up. His childhood friend has no choice. She arrested him. Kafka feels so lost as he walks past his crewmates. But Ishikawa says, "I believe you'll come back, sir," giving him the slight boost of confidence he needed. Mina explained to him that she's on his side and she'll still be waiting for him. Everyone from 3rd Division will be waiting for him. We meet the leaders of the defense force, and Shinomiya's dad is at the top. Shinomiya explained to him that he has saved her lives countless times, but all he saw was her failure, and reminded her that he's a kaiju just like the one that killed her mom. But Shinomiya still believed in Kafka. Kafka thought that they were about to do their yearly tests and checkups, but instead he sees the Director General of the Defense Force, Shinomiya's dad, Aizawa Shinomiya. He attacked Kafka and pulled blood samples from his body in a very aggressive way. Kafka is trying to convince her dad that he's not a kaiju, he's a human being. But as you can see, he transforms parts and parts of his body in order to withstand the attacks he's receiving. Kafka gets pushed to the edge, and the kaiju he swallows begins to try to take over his body. Shinomiya's dad is about to die, and Shinomiya is pleading for Kafka to remember that he's a human being. Kafka is thinking about the reason why he got here to begin with. He then snaps out of it and stabs himself. Mina gives her observations of Kafka. As a Defense Force officer, Aisaho makes a final decision, which everyone else seems to not agree with. Kafka wakes up and is surprised to see Shinomiya's dad, but also relieved that he did not kill him. He would not be able to face Shinomiya if he did. Aizaho gave him the news that his elimination has been deferred. Kafka has a lot on his plate. He needs to prove himself. Before news gets out that they have a kaiju in the defense force, it will cause panic. The Division 3 was excited to hear the news of Kafka's deferral. They realized that they need to train and get even stronger to match Kafka. Especially Shinomiya, who promised to kill Kafka if he ever turned against the humans. In the closing scene, we see Kaiju number 9 with another Kaiju number 9. Both humanoid kaiju look similar, but they now know the intelligence of the humans. Their plan is to bring back the kaiju that escaped to the human side. Season 2 is going to be something.